I've had a few people ask me about my add-ons, so I thought rather than reply to people, I'll just do a video and show you what it is I use and talk about why I use them. So in the middle of my screen, you've got probably one of my favorite add-ons is called Ovale, O-V-A-L-E. I'll put a link to all of these add-ons in the description of the video. And this basically centralizes all of my information, and through a script, which I've customized, it will indicate what abilities you should use at a given time. So for example, I'm in combat. I have Cenarian Ward, which is his ability. I have Cenarian Ward available and I don't have the buff, so it's telling me to use Cenarian Ward. So if I go into bear form and I hit Cenarian Ward, it will then look at, okay, what else, what other buffs do I have, what abilities are on cooldown, and it will suggest what my next ability is. So in this case I need to Lacerate. Now I don't have a Thrash dot up, so it's suggesting that I use Thrash. Now I have a Mangle proc, so I can use Mangle. I should be using my lovely Mitigation, and then you just basically follow it. I don't follow it religiously, to be honest, because there are times where, you know, situations call for a different ability, and but in terms of swapping between tanks, especially if you're on alts that you're not familiar with, and you're, you know, for some people don't have as much time to learn every single ability on every single tank. So with that, you can very reliably just follow this and follow it quite blindly. It's not, obviously you're not going to be perfect, but you know, in terms of being able to do your job better than some people, it works fine. In addition to that, I'm using weak auras, which is where I get my massive mangle from. So for example, in that situation before Cenarian Ward came up, it was suggesting Thrash because the Thrash debuff had dropped off the boss, but I would have prioritized mangle in some situations, depending on what other adds are around and stuff like that. This bar down the bottom, which you would have noticed went purple, this is my resolve bar as a tank, so it just indicates where my self-healings are going to be most optimal. So using my healing touch procs or using frenzied regeneration at specific times, it's very helpful for that, which is how I can get 30k plus healing on some trash fights. The rest of what you see on here is basically one add-on. So the other add-on that is different is called SCADA. So this is where this is what I use to track DPS of everybody in my group and healing. I also change it to damage taken when I'm tanking, so I can compare myself to other tanks. I can also look at healing and that kind of thing. I found that very useful. SCADA is the same as Recount, but their numbers are always different, so I'm not entirely sure whether one's more accurate than the other, so you kind of take stuff with a grain of salt. The rest of what you see is all LVUI, so the health bars, the action bars, these extra information, the chat, the map, the buffs, these things up here, everything here is LVUI, which is a brilliant add-on. It's really small, it's really compact, and it's very CPU light. It even shows you what buffs you have and what buffs are currently not active. So when I use stats, then it shows me that I have stats, and it tells you what we get from stats as well. So you've got Multistrike, you've got Mastery, you've got Critical Strike from Monks, you know, all of that sort of stuff, attack power from DKs. So if a warrior does Battle Shout, it'll just replace this, so it picks up whichever abilities are used that give you what you need. So if you need stamina, it'll show you what you've got. In addition to that, a couple other things. I use a really useful add-on called Saved Instances, and what it tells you is on all of your characters that you've logged into recently, it'll say what raids you're saved to. LFR, it tells you any alts, legacy raids, what dailies you've done, your trade skill cooldowns, bonus rolls, have you picked up your Seals of Tempered Fate, your Garrison, your Pexis, all in one place. I love it. As an alcoholic, I love it. One that I don't have running at the moment, which is Blood Legion cooldown. This basically displays all of the available raid-wide cooldowns that your group has. Not raid-wide, but the cooldowns in your raid. So things like Rebirth or Disco Bubbles or Aspect of the Fox, anything like that. It says who has it available and who's is on cooldown, so you can call for things. I haven't been using it lately because I haven't been raid leading. I also use an Archeology add-on called Archie. Unfortunately, I can't show you it in my garrison, but it brings up some tooltips that show you what dig sites you've got, how far those dig sites are away from you, so the distance to travel to them, and then it also allows you to solve artifacts without having to go through the default menu. You just click on it and you can implement keystones. So basically what you've got here, it comes up in a nice little compact frame where you can put anywhere you like. The rest of the stuff that I should probably mention, let's have a look what we've got in here. Auctionator for auctions, brilliant if you're not a serious auction person. It's just very convenient, it's easy to sell and to buy things very quickly. Auto loot spec, this is very useful because it allows me to specify what loot I want from which boss. So let's say, for example, I'm doing Hans and Franz Mythic and I know that I've got some loot. I can actually specify that when I click on the boss, my spec will automatically be switched to, my loot spec will be automatically switched to Guardian. If I'm on Orgorger and I want something for Feral, as soon as I click on Orgorger, it'll automatically switch my loot spec. So I don't need to go in here each time, I just need to set it up once and then change it when I don't need anything from that boss. Now the other thing that we have in here, which I may as well show you, is the tooltip. This tooltip has some extra information which is from an add-on called Pawn, P-A-W-N, and it shows me, based on how I've weighted stats within the add-on, it shows me how much of an upgrade something is. So for example, I've got a head item here. This is 700, my head item 665 because they're not dropping. Twitch. And then, so this tells me it's a 16% upgrade. So that's a very nice upgrade. For Feral, it's even better. So because of the stats, versatility and crit, what I ideally want is Multistrike and Mastery. So it, based on your stat weights, it'll tell you how much of an upgrade something is, and you set all that information up in the add-on itself. So these are the stat weights that I've got. Multistrike, I'm very Mastery heavy, so I'm prioritizing Multistrike at the moment. And then of course armor, bonus armor, least useful crit and haste, so it's quite useful in that sense. And then you can set it for different specs as well. So Noxic has some numbers if you're not sure what to put in. For Resto, for example, I just put the ones that Noxic suggested. It also has default ones. I changed the default, I just found they weren't quite accurate. All of this is LVUI. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else immediately that I need to mention. I don't think there is. So the other ones here, auto loot spec I talked about, auto turn-in, very useful if you're leveling and questing and you're not interested in reading any of the quest text. You just interact with the quest giver and it will automatically pick up quests and also turn in quests. I'd have it turned off because if you go for your Seals of Tempered Fate from Storm Shield, it will automatically pick the 500 gold options. So where I've got heaps and heaps of garrison resources and I don't want to use gold, you just have to be careful because it can automatically turn those in. So I'd have to customize it, or you can just turn it off, which is what I do because I'm not questing. In addition to that, click is a very useful thing. It allows you to, it's kind of, I guess it's probably better for healers, but I also find it useful as a tank because I can, through my Spellbar, I can actually specify key combinations, so I can use them on people without having to put those abilities on my cast bar. So even though I have a Rebirth here, if I press Shift and then mouse over something and click on it, it will cast, left click, it will cast Rebirth. If I control and left click on something, it will cast Remove Corruption. So you can with those combinations, you don't need to have those abilities on your bars. So for example, I don't have remove corruption anywhere. I put rebirth on there just so I can see the timer, but remove corruption isn't anywhere because I'm using click, and I've used click for a very long time and I love it. Apart from that, deadly boss mods, because guild. Death Note is very useful. It shows you everything that happened to you and anybody in your party who died. It shows the last 30 seconds, so you can see when somebody was standing in bad, how long they were standing in bad, what kind of bad they were standing in, were they getting heals, were they being ignored, anything like that. So that's useful. Garrison Mission Manager and Master Plan are absolutely brilliant if you are a garrison person. I highly, highly recommend them. Gnome Sequencer it's something that I only use for dual boxing, so I won't talk about that. GTFO, very useful, it makes audible noises when you're standing in bad things, which with all the spell details and tanking with a paladin tank is brilliant. Trying to see fire when there's like 3 consecrations under your feet, very, very useful. IS Boxer is a multi-boxing tool. Loot Appraiser, I don't really use that very much. There's mixed scrolling battle text. Rare Finder, so it indicates on your map where rares are. Warcraft Helper, I haven't been using it. It's one that you need to use with your raid and somebody needs to click to indicate which paths Gorger has already rolled down during the intermission or phase 2. So I haven't been using that lately. Pawn Postal, my add-on for posting. I can't recommend the Postal enough. SCADA, as I mentioned. Snowfall Cursor, when I move my cursor there's this snowflake effect. It makes it easier, again because of spell effects, it just makes it easier to see where my damn mouse is in the middle of consecration upper loser. Trade Skill Master, which kind of goes with Loot Appraiser. Loot Appraiser just basically looks at the information on the auction house and says, this is worth vendoring, or you should auction this. Thurgar Assist, I've talked about that in my Thurgar raid video. /in allows you to add a delay to certain things, so I use that for my dual spec macro. So I cast dual spec and then it waits, and in I think 2 or 3 seconds then it will automatically change my gear. Having said that, you can also just use the spec switcher within LVUI, and it will do that for you. It will cast it and then switch your gear, but it's just habit. TomTom for arrows, weak auras I talked about, and then Blizzard add-ons, and that's it. So that's really all I use. I've whittled down a lot of my add-ons. I used to have a lot more. There's some that I don't even use anymore, which I probably could get rid of again. Some are only situational, like boss ones, but that's about it. So if there's anything else that I haven't mentioned that you are curious about, please let me know. Otherwise, if you want to see any of this in action, I do have a Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/hist_hark, so HIST_HARK, and I'm happy to talk about what ifs. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your morning, day, afternoon, evening, whatever the case may be, and we shall hopefully see you in the next video.